Aloha. I wanted to make a quick video and actually keep it quick, real quick, about in reference to a couple of my last videos, and for some of the new subscribers and some of the people who might see me a little differently because of my tone and my voice is a little bit different than what people might have been used to in my previous videos. I just wanted to expand upon that and share with people where I'm really coming from and share some perspectives that some people might not realize because they don't know me. They don't know who I am. And this is not really about me. This is to expand upon where I'm coming from. Where I'm coming from is from a space of realizing that this storyline that is added up to the heliocentric deception and the colonization of the entire Earth plane is not new. There have been genocides and massacres that have added up to what is going on today. And just because we do not see that this system is overtly lynching people and overtly dragging people down the streets and burning bodies like they were just in the 60s, in the 50s. Not that long ago, this was happening because of the power grid, the same power grid that's behind NASA. A lot of people don't see this from the perspective that I see this because a lot of people think that things have changed. You trust the system. This is one version of reality. Some people trust the system. Some people trust that things have changed. Some people trust that their enemy has changed. It hasn't. It's only gotten more slick to convince people that things have changed. There's another group of people who actually come from the perspective, kind of like the New Age perspective, who say, well, you need to focus on compassion and forgiveness and all of this, stop being angry. Well, there's a thing with this too. I might share passion. I might share a perspective that goes into the depths. You can't talk about genocide and massacre with a smile on your face. You can't go into celebrating the depths of who and what you are on the soul, the mind, and the body perspective unless you have first grieved through the understandings, understandings, and overstandings of how much we have gone through to still be standing here in front of people, to still be holding this strength, to still be sharing the message of our ancestors to people without fear of death, without fear of persecution, without fear of having people look at you a certain way or attack you a certain way. These perspectives are not recognized because of the YouTube and social media filter. People who are subscribed to me, a lot of the people who look at me a little sideways or think I'm angry, you don't know who I am. You don't know the person that I am. You know the YouTube video creator person that you hear over the internet. You don't know me as a person. So to label me as angry and such is going way far into assuming you know who I am based upon the information that I produce onto the internet. This information is calibrated in so many different ways to send so many different messages to so many different groups of people, to portray so many different understandings, understandings, and overstandings of what's going on here on as many layers of this perspective as possible. There's so many different perspectives that I am trying to portray in each video, in each perspective, that there is no way in hell that anybody or everybody is going to see this the same way. Only certain people who understand what I'm really doing here on the depths, who really only kind of know me personally can truly understand where I'm coming from. Nobody on YouTube knows me personally. Nobody on YouTube knows where I'm really coming from because you don't know me as a person. So to label me as angry and such and such and such because I address people like I would address other people in person, if you were to label me a certain way because of how I interact with people on the internet, that's stepping way into assumption land and assuming you think you know who I am and what I'm talking about. You don't have the slightest clue who I am and what I'm talking about and where I'm coming from. No idea. You can only assume from YouTube. So when I share my perspective on the person that is Mark Sargent, the person that is Patricia, I'm sharing my perspective as if I would talk to them into their face, just like that. I would ask them those very questions and have this same tone that I have in this conversation. It wouldn't be as aggressive sounding because I wouldn't want to make them feel uncomfortable, but I will get to that point, that same point that I'm making in every video where I bring up those perspectives. Each one of them will be addressed in one way or another. So for people who are thinking I'm being too hard on Mark Sargent and I'm being too hard on Patricia, know that I don't know them. I'm not concerned with how nice they are. I'm not concerned. And a large reason why I'm not concerned with how nice they are, because these are not personal attacks. I don't give a shit about their persona. They are the only ones who care about their persona because to them, this is an actual notch on the belt. This is something to be crossed off on the bucket list of approaching this doing something, accomplishing something in your world. And for that, I actually congratulate them and respect them, like I've said in these previous videos, for doing that and putting themselves out there, because not many people will do that. Not many people have done that, nor will they do that or go there. So I respect them for speaking the way they do. What I'm saying is that there is more to the story that they might not be privy to, that it's just fine. I accept and I'm okay. Not like I'm the approving authority on any of this information being out. What I'm saying is that I understand what they are saying and what they are doing. But a large part of the reasons why I put the information out calibrated the way I do is to help people expand the conversation. Expand your truth. You think you know something when in fact we know nothing. We are always entering into a new version, a new perspective, a deeper understanding, a deeper understanding, and a deeper overstanding of what is going on. I have a problem when these large channels that have large followings are telling people subconsciously, because they're not consciously doing this. They're not saying this is the only thing you should look at, but subconsciously they're telling people, hey, this is it. We've done it. We've found the Holy Grail. It's flat Earth. That's it. That's all you need to look into. Don't look any further. And of course, that's very generalizing what I'm saying, or generalizing their perspectives. But what I'm saying is that ultimately, and there's no way that I'm going to be able to explain exactly everything that is being thrown my way and how everybody is seeing everything. But I can attempt to clear things up by sharing with people my eyes, the way I see things, the way I hear things, the way I perceive things. And other people, see, this is only difficult for people who are still caught up in like, oh well, you know, this is just, you're just too aggressive and you're just too angry. These are for these people who are seeing me as that, thinking you know who I am. You don't. You only know what these YouTube videos say. And these YouTube videos aren't saying any one specific thing. They are saying many things. Many different people are hearing what I'm saying outside of even the language that I use. Many different people are understanding, understanding, and overstanding what I'm saying from the tone of my voice, from the passion in which I present this information, from the perspective of where I'm coming from, and from the respect that I do still have for many of the people that have presented their information online as such. There's something to be said for that kind of approach to this information. And my main intent by speaking in reference to these bigger flat earth channels who have presented themselves as leaders, as ushering in this new information and so on and so forth. There's something to be said for somebody who steps out there and says, this is it. This is the way this should be presented. And if you present this information in any other way, you are wrong. Those words were voiced by Mark Sargent himself when he said, and I quote, as long as it doesn't take away from the flat earth message or the message of flat earth. I have a very definite problem with that, because you are putting a stamp on what, if at all, flat earth has a message, period. Because I'm not saying that for people who are assuming that. Orphan Red, who's just jumped straight into that. I'm not saying that. The only reason why I referenced the message of flat earth is because Mark Sargent himself voiced those words himself. What I'm saying is the information of flat earth, the way it's being presented by these big flat earth channels, it's not all beneficial if the calibration of that information is based upon still giving your power away to the so-called powers that be. Now, I understand that, information is going to be shared, like Mark Sargent said on this secret show, well, people are emailing me and this is where I'm being guided to, talk about this information. Great. I understand that. Congratulations. That's where you're being guided to do. You know what? Do your thing. I'm not saying don't do that. I haven't been saying don't do that. What I have been saying is, when you are doing what you are doing, at least leave the perspectives open to realize that this is not only about NASA. This is not only about, these deceivers, these illusionists who have been selling these stories for so long. There is also a balance point that needs to be recognized and understood, which is the connection with nature that the indigenous, the aboriginal people, and the ancestors of us today were already tapped into. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Flat Earth being packaged and sold to the populace as something new, as something discovered, is no different than Christopher Columbus saying he discovered the new world. Is no different than mainstream technology saying that they discovered all of these quantum fields and all this other stuff, and never acknowledging the ancient technologies of the ancient civilizations. It's no different. What I'm saying is that leave this information open. Make it as generic and basic as possible, with the opening to people to research deeper from the human story perspective. If you are selling flat earth as some fix it all quick, just fix everything. This is just a fix it all. just from realizing that it's flat earth. And you realize that that's basically just opening the door to realizing that there are villains out there. That's what the so-called powers that be want to do. They want you to figure out the depths of the flat earth. They want you to find the villains. They want you to research this information. You think all this stuff happening on YouTube is a mistake? You think all these athletes and all these other people are doing this? This is mentioning flat earth and this being played. This is a mistake or just happening just cause? No. This is being monitored. This is being orchestrated to be shared a certain way, calibrated a certain way. When I have a problem with is, for example, I went on to the chat room of Mark and Patricia's secret show just today. While they were talking about me, they were speaking about me. I responded to Mark saying, while they were talking about me, look, I have no beef with you. I am merely saying that there is information and perspectives that you haven't been privy to because you haven't been aware of this information and haven't acknowledged it yet. And by not acknowledging that information, not because you're willfully or consciously staying away from it, mostly because you just haven't experienced it. It's not part of your reality. You've only experienced the Western civilization. You haven't lived the way the indigenous and the Aboriginal people have lived. You don't know the stories as we know them. You can never put yourself in our shoes, ever. As nice and as kind as you want to be, you will never be able to empathize with us the way we have experienced this reality. That is what I am saying. That is where I'm coming from. As soon as I put that comment out there, I was timed out by Patricia, blocked from commenting anymore in defense of or even in response to the information that they were talking about directly relating to me. I was shut down by Patricia in the chat room. And then when she did mention my comment, she cut it in half and only talked about the second half. So when I started off that comment and said, look, Mark, I have no beef with you, she didn't even say that to the people. She didn't say that on the air. She skipped over it on purpose and went straight into the, well, you're wrong, Mark, because you haven't acknowledged the indigenous. You know what that does when you cut something like that in half? It's already hard enough to put this information into a comment. Then to cut that comment in half? Why would somebody do that? These people, I won't say these people. I'll say Patricia, because she's the one that did this. Very, very concerned with the way she looks. There's this victimization program out there that exists that keeps people safe, that keeps people in the right and other people in the wrong. And by cutting that comment in half, how many milliseconds would it have been to read the entire comment? How beneficial would it have been to read that first part of the comment that says, I have no beef with you, Mark Sargent? This is actually what I'm saying. How beneficial would that have been to people who are already looking at me like I'm an aggressive, whatever kind of person who's just hating on Mark and Patricia? How beneficial would that have been? But no. She had to maintain her status of being in the right and me being in the wrong, and stamping it in the ground by silencing me from even commenting in the chat section as if I was trolling or something, timing me out like I'm some fucking little kid that's just gonna come in there and, mess everything up in the perfect little chat section. That's some straight up bullshit. Beyond that, earlier in that, I didn't even watch the whole video. I turned it off after I heard some joking with Mark talking about, said something about, boy, go fetch me this, something other that. And then Patricia saying, what the hell did she say? Something about wearing people's skin or made out of human skin. See, this is how, and people will just poo-poo that away as, oh, you know, where they were just joking. Oh, they're just sweet people just joking. No, this is the main point. This system kills you with kindness and ignorance. To joke around, throwing the terminology boy around like that. And to joke around about human skin is a proof of how far removed these individuals are from not only where I'm coming from the depths of the human story. Human skin was actually being used in the slave times. It was actually happening. People were actually being called boy to go fetch things. This shit is not a joke. Oh, you're overreacting. They were just joking. Come on. Can't we not joke? The very fact that you would sit up there and joke about something like that is a proof of everything that I have been saying in all of these videos, of how far removed from where I'm actually coming from that you're not even perceiving this. You can't understand this. You can never empathize with this. And I'm not like I'm not really expecting you to. But I am hoping that eventually people like Mark and Patricia will actually just sit back and say, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't speak so much. Maybe there are some perspectives that I haven't looked at yet. Maybe there are some things that would change my entire approach to this whole flat earth thing. Maybe I should watch the words that I use in these jokes that I put out there, knowing how they affect certain people. Maybe I should think twice before I, start speaking. Maybe, possibly. In order for me to project that kind of atmosphere, I make the videos that I make. Will certain people see me as angry? Of course they will. They don't know me. They see this as a personal attack because they see Mark and Patricia as beautiful, wonderful people. Great. That's perfect. But the Jesuits and the Bible thumping colonizers that came over to the so-called New World, they were also seen as wonderful, sweet, nice people who just wanted everybody to come to Jesus and come to the Bible and come to Christianity and stop following their savage and primitive ways and follow the new God and the New Testament. Follow these new perspectives of your reality. Follow this new civilization. Follow the way we tell you your reality is. Acknowledge that you are primitive and savage. And come into the new Western civilization as it should be, based upon manifest destiny. This didn't happen a long time ago. The same mechanism that was being used back then is happening today because people trust their enslavers. Now, is Mark and Patricia, are they slave owners? Of course not. What I'm saying is that they are unaware of the depths because they cannot empathize with what these stories have presented to our ancestors. They could never go into the depths of that. That's why I'm saying it's so dangerous for people who cannot empathize with the depths of the human story to present themselves as if this is what we need to focus on. This is the message. This is what we need to be looking forward to. That's only based upon the grassroots, shallow perspective of what the slave owners are presenting to us. So no, I'm not telling Mark, do not talk to the mainstream media. I know that this system is going to have its own transition and its own ways of moving and all that other stuff. I understand that. The only thing I can do is attempt to help people who are going to be engaging in these conversations with that system. The only thing I can do is help in any kind of way possible, express the empathy that I feel for my ancestors, the passion that I have from the way I perceive this reality, to somebody who has never experienced that and will never be able to experience that ever. So yes, I'm fine. Label me angry, label me aggressive, label me, whatever it is that you want. You don't know me. You only know this artistic expression that I am sharing with people. You don't know me. To label me as such, you have no idea who I am or where I'm coming from. I don't know Mark and Patricia. I only know how they treat these perspectives and other people and how they've treated me. To be timed out in a in a chat room, in an attempt to add to the conversation where they were actually talking about me. And this is another thing. In reference to Mark and Patricia avoiding this conversation says a lot. By timing me out in that chat room is a proof of how these individuals deal with something that challenges their belief systems and their reality. They don't want to speak about this. They don't want to reveal deeper perspectives of themselves. They would rather demonize everybody else and make themselves out to be the victims in order to make everything just feel okay. Everything is just fine. Everything will be just better when Flat Earth goes mainstream. And am I wrong for talking to the CNN and HBO? They're the ones who approached me. This is what's naturally happening. Am I wrong? Should I not do this? I'm not saying that. But that's a defense mechanism that gets put out there. I don't have a problem with anger. I don't have a problem with forgiveness. I've been taken to those extremes already throughout my life outside of YouTube. I understand those depths from a personal perspective and a collective perspective. To assume that you know me because of what I present on YouTube is childish and extremely shallow. You have no idea who I am, what I've been through, what I know, and where I'm actually coming from. You only know what I present on YouTube. This information revealing the heliocentric deception, this is not a game. This is not something to be commercialized or approached from any kind of TV show, radio show host kind of perspective. That might sound like I'm pointing fingers at Patricia and Mark, but I'm not. I'm not saying don't do that. What I'm saying is that if you are going to do that, at least challenge yourself to go to the depths of the human story that is actually at the foundation of the flat earth heliocentric deception story. At least do that. Because the system, the so-called powers that be, will just take exactly what this commercial perspective is being presented on YouTube, and they will sell it to the mainstream populace the same way that it's being presented, and won't acknowledge any of the human story. And as long as that kind of approach is being amplified and shared with people over and over and over again over a 2-year time span, you have now stepped into the realm of no longer helping people see the information from a deeper level of consciousness, but you have now stepped into the realm of prepackaging and presenting this for the next slave mentality. When you had 2 years of an opportunity to come from the perspective of the human story, I understand that not everybody is going to be able to come from that perspective. I understand that. But at the same time, the only thing that I can do is help people actually realize that there is something more, and hopefully have any of this information leak in to the people who are presenting the commercial version of flat earth to the mainstream populace. Because if you are telling people that this is the message of flat earth, your words, Mark, and anything else is a distraction from the message, you best believe I'm going to say something about that. You have formalized it. You've stated this, and this is why both Mark and Patricia avoid direct contact. They don't want to speak about this information. I've opened up the door to live streams on many occasions to face them directly and ask them directly information about where they're really coming from, what they're really about. And just like I was timed out on that chat stream, I'm just pigeonholed into this box of, oh, you're just an angry, melanated man who's just far removed from real truth about, what flat earth and what humanity and unity and all this other stuff is about. You know what? Paint me however you want. Paint whatever you like. But in the end, this shit will come out in the wash. Where you're coming from will come out in the wash. It's only a matter of time. I'm actually your best fucking friend, Mark and Patricia, right now. I'm actually trying to help your asses realize that you are stepping into a fucking dragon's lair without any weapons, thinking that it's all going to be fairies and fucking rainbows and gumdrops, because you are the ones leading the way. But like I said in that last live stream with IPS, if you haven't grieved before you started celebrating this flat earth realization, if you haven't grieved for the people who have fallen at the blade of this heliocentric deception and this colonial mind control program, if you haven't grieved and empathized as much as you can with the human story before you started celebrating the flat earth realization, you're just setting up another mind control program. And if you have a following, you're setting up that mind control program for your following as well. So what I'm saying is, if anything, pump your brakes. Pump the brakes before you start selling something as if you discovered something. Flat Earth and selling it to the mainstream media as if you discovered something is no different than Christopher Columbus saying that he discovered the new world. There's nothing new about this. And you will be in line for a very rude awakening from the people who have lived underneath this boot of colonization and heliocentric deception. This information that I'm sharing with you on my channel and in these live streams will not be watered down when you are presented with it by the people who are engaged in the mainstream media. They will give you the most potent perspective of this information. And since you have avoided researching that information and attempting to empathize with that information and just poo-pooed it to the side as if I'm just some angry person out there who's just angry with everybody, who just can't let go of these racist programs and all this other stuff. Keep telling yourself that I'm angry and you don't have any work to do. Keep telling yourself that. Because soon enough, this information will be presented to you right in your face. And you won't have anywhere to go. You'll be faced with these questions. And you'll realize this video, these words I'm speaking right now, and you'll realize where I'm coming from and what I was saying. When you hear a grandmother talk about what her family, her memories have gone through as a result of colonization, when you haven't done that grieving process before you started celebrating and throwing a fucking party about discovering the flat earth, when you're sitting in front of a indigenous elder who is pouring her heart out to you about what her and her family had to go through and previous generations before her had to go through as a result of these illusions and these deceptions that are very well connected to the heliocentric model. When you're sitting there in front of her and she tells you how her family members had their heads bashed in, had their genitals cut off, had her brothers and sisters lynched on trees and burned. It's very easy for somebody to just say, you know, you need to just get over it. You need to just work on forgiveness. You're just an angry person. Keep telling yourself that. Keep telling yourself it's that easy. Because that's the hardhead route. That's the route that's facing you. And as long as you keep avoiding it, it's just going to get harder and harder and harder. So you can avoid me. You can time me out in the chat session. You can write me off as some angry, melanated person who can't let go of racism. You can label me as whatever you want. But you will never be able to get away from the tidal wave coming your way of hardcore truth and reality that will barrel your ass over. I told you, I'm being soft right now. I'm actually holding back. All of these videos, I've given these so many opportunities to at least reach out to say, you know what else? What is this individual talking about? What am I missing? Is there something more than the science of flat earth, the curvature math, NASA, the villains, the Zionists, all this other stuff? Is there something more? Is there something beyond the physical and the psychological warfare? I'm not saying I have all the answers. I don't. I'm saying that there's a benefit to humbling yourself and presenting yourself in knowing that you don't have all the answers and that you might be stepping into a place that might not be very beneficial to hurry up and get there. This information is not, like I said on IPS's live stream earlier. The longer it takes for this information to get out is better. Because the slave program, the human slave story, is actually at the foundation of the deception. What's the difference of being a slave on a globe and being a slave on a plane? There is no difference. So if that is a proven fact, why not start sharing the perspective of the slave mentality before you start celebrating the realization of the deception? Because if you just keep selling the realization of the deception, then you're going to sell large groups of people into another slave program. And they won't be able to see what's coming because they themselves didn't allow themselves to realize the depths of this storyline, because they thought they had it. They thought they knew it all. They thought they got it. It was it. It's just flat earth. Flat earth, forgiveness, compassion, and unity. That's it. It's that simple. And if anybody else has anything else to say, something's wrong with you. Keep telling yourself that. Keep telling yourself that the people who are speaking in reference to the human story have something wrong with them. So that's basically what I wanted to share with this video. I know I went on. And this is another thing people talk about. Oh, yeah, well, he always says this is going to be a short video. Who the hell is that say anything about what is short video? People putting 6-hour videos out here. 1 hour is actually short for me. 1.5 hours, I'm having to water all this information down, especially when I'm freestyling. Just talking about stuff. Podcasts go on for 4 or 5 hours. 1 hour is short for me. So yeah, these videos are short. These types of videos are short. I know it's a minority of people now saying that stuff, or new people saying that stuff, but it's just funny when I see a comment like that every now and again. And but people who are already tuned into this channel already know. That's basically what I have for this video. I wanted to put that information out there to kind of balance out the last few videos where I was actually coming from a perspective that is shocking to people. He used curse words. He cussed. Oh my goodness. He's so loud. He's so angry. Let me tell you something. If your people were genocided and massacred, and the mainstream perspective was acting like none of that matters, just trying to move on and telling you you're wrong for actually talking about it, telling you that you're wrong for trying to help people to acknowledge that this has happened so they don't fall into the next slave agenda. If you think something's wrong with that, for people being angry and passionate, there's nothing wrong with anger. In fact, if you do not feel anger, you don't know what the fuck is going on here. If you cannot empathize with somebody being angry about the way this system has evolved itself, you don't know what's going on here. I don't care how compassionate, how much forgiveness you think you have, how much of an evolved person you think you are. If you cannot empathize with another individual being angry about what's going on, then you got a lot to learn. And like I said, You don't know that I'm angry. I'm presenting anger as an art form from this passionate perspective that is a representation of who I was and who I still am in many different ways. But as a person, I process that information way differently. That's what I said. You don't know who I am. You only know what I share on YouTube. My perspectives, my brothers, my sisters, my mothers, my fathers, my grandparents' perspectives are still very much valid. They still very much might have a little bit of anger in there. I still very much might have a little bit of anger in there. Is it wrong? Of course not. It's healthy to let that stuff out. It is unhealthy to brush it under the rug as if it doesn't exist. This is what the new age perspective is trying to present to people. This is what this whole unity and forgiveness and compassionate perspective is trying to do, to make people complacent in the way they approach this system, in the way they approach these slave masters, in the way they approach the idea of change and evolution. I will not sit back and allow that to be. People have not processed this anger. People have not processed the grief. You have not processed that information. And if you are already stepping into the idea of a new world and where we need to go before you have processed that anger and that grief, then you are creating a prescription drug. And the side effect to that prescription drug is complacency and setting yourself up for a new slave program. Label me as wrong for presenting that information and whatever you want. I understand it. I honestly really don't. I'm really not concerned with it. I actually welcome it because it adds to me making videos like this, where I have to present myself from a different angle, from a different perspective that actually helps people see where I'm coming from and the information that I'm presenting from a deeper layer, from a deeper perspective. So I welcome the haters equally to welcoming the people who are supporting this channel. And the only way I could be able to do that is if I am outside of that anger, is if I am outside of that judgment. I wouldn't be able to produce all of these videos and all this information if I was taking this shit personally. I wouldn't be able to do this. I would have thrown in the towel long ago. 600 plus videos on this channel. You can't do that if you're holding all of that stuff in the emotional body. If you're holding that stuff on your shoulders, you can't do that. I don't recommend people do that or even try to do that. It's not possible to do that. You have to have processed this information from a higher perspective of compassion and forgiveness in order to actually present the information with the passion and the perspectives that I presented on this channel. I wouldn't be able to do this if I was actually as angry as some people think I am. I am angry, but that's not who I am. Who I am has already processed that anger. Who I am has already come from a forgiveness perspective, from a compassionate perspective. Who I am is different from what you see on YouTube. Who I am is not what's being painted by somebody else or even by me painting. Only people who know me will know who I am. So whatever makes you comfortable to label me or anybody else as whatever you like, so be it. It's usually that way for people to feel comfortable with themselves. It has nothing to do with the individual. So carry on with that because I'm very well aware of how that system works. But I'll tell you, it has a ceiling. It does have a limitation. So thank you for joining me. And yeah, hopefully this will help people see these videos that I'm putting out from the perspective that I can only share so much of who I am as a person and where I'm coming from in so many different ways. So hopefully this will kind of help with seeing that. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for the support. Everybody who supports this channel, shares these videos, likes and comments and subscribes. It really does help. So until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.